Good afternoon and welcome to the Day After Podcast and our fun little sub-show, Too Many Kubricks, where we watch and review every Stanley Kubrick film in chronological order. In episode 5, we had the long, arduous task of watching and reviewing 1960s Spartacus, directed by Stanley Kubrick, written by Darlton Trumbo, and written and executive produced by a guy I met named Kirk Douglas.
Johnny didn't know this ended sad.
Okay, guys, I am going to be the one to admit my wife hated math in school. I wasn't a big fan of history. So you just...
So you thought they were going to take out the Roman Empire?
No, I didn't put it together. It's
got about like 400 years left.
Here's what happened. 9 days ago, I texted you in all caps, "This is the I Am Spartacus movie." And you're like, "Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Spartacus is the I Am Spartacus movie.
But I thought there were like 45 other Spartacus. Like, no, just sit down, buddy. Enjoy this extremely long movie.
Yeah, this 3 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it's I watched a review.
It's minus 3 hours. Minus the overture.
Minus the overture, which is about 5 minutes. We took an essayist's advice, or I did, about how to watch long movies, and one of them is watch it earlier in the day. Because nothing sucks more than starting a movie at 9, getting out at midnight, and like, oh fuck, right. I gotta go to bed. Well, okay. It's not even 3 yet.
I don't mind long movies. Some of my favorite movies are 3 and 4 hours long. Okay. So even I felt that this was sluggish. And I like long movies.
We're getting the most shallow criticisms out of the way.
Yes, this is
the most shallow critique out of the way. The only thing I can think that comes close to this is not Sound of Music. Iceman Cometh was one, and the other one is that 4-hour very famous Gone with the Wind. Sorry, Iceman. In terms of length, only Iceman Cometh and Gone with the Wind come even close.
I think. Well, yeah, Iceman's like 4 hours long.
Yeah, and I think we did it in 2 segments. But that's because we were college kids with classes to go to and work to go to.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, the quick recap of this movie is that some gladiators start a rebellion and try to leave Italy so they can go home, and against that, two Roman politicians squabble and try to use this slave rebellion as a means to gain more power in the Roman Senate.
That's a good point. What I'd like to make, if anything, out of this sub show, Too Many Kubricks, I'd like, in terms of subject matter, I would love like a topographical like heat map of the 13 movies, because this movie feels like Ned Flanders' Neighbors with Barry Lyndon, and then across down the street is Full Metal Jacket. Because
can you explain what you mean by that?
Barry Lyndon, there are shots here. I'll go out and say it. We hired 100,000 extras. That's what it feels like. These sweeping landscapes that are lit by natural light.
Yes.
There are long, extended, wonderful scenes where you say, why does it feel like I'm on mushrooms and the wall is moving? No, those are people.
Is this a backdrop, or is like, oh, that's actually a landscape? Okay.
And you get to see in real time this army of, I assume it's 100 per square, and there's 20 squares, so that's a couple thousand people that they've hired to morph into this phalanx that transforms on the battlefield.
One of the things I want to say about this movie is who was the reviewer that we said, the guy who just gave you that advice that it's like, start this in the morning.
His name is Karsten Rundquist.
And one of the other things that he was mentioning is that this is a historical epic. I don't much care for historical epic.
I was so worried, as was I,
I agree with this because there's this handicap with historical epics. You have to put so much effort into just the normal shots. Like the marching. It's just people marching. That costs so much money and so much effort. And so you already have this handicap of having to do the most just for technical reasons. There's so many technical hurdles in this. So I'm giving Stanley some of the benefit of the doubt for a lot of the sections of the movie where I'm kind of dropping out.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, there's only so much you can do with the task of a historical epic.
So, let it be known that Kirk. This is one of the very, very few jobs for which Stanley Kubrick was hired on
Yeah.
by Kirk Douglas. So, Kirk Douglas wanted to make this movie after he did not get the title role in 1959's Ben Hur. So he hired on Stanley Kubrick to what turned out to be a fairly rough filming process, because Stanley, even which is ironic because Stanley Kubrick recently dropped out of a movie that Marlon Brando wanted to direct, and he is also a very picky man. But you are starting to see, and this is what's special to me. It happened. It started in Paths of Glory, and it continues. Is bits of Stanley Kubrick are peeking out, and the one that I can think of is that he does the flash my money under the table by way of these shots that took 12 hours to set up, and we're gonna show them in montage. Here's a boat swimming. Here's 1,000 people moving to the left.
There's so many gorgeous sets that carpenters took days to make, and it's just kind of maybe see it for 30 seconds in the background.
Oh, there's the fucking Roman reflecting pool. Oh no, don't go away. Okay, we'll do more autocrat stuff. We'll talk more government.
Yes, there's so much effort in detail that you can see in this movie. Another example, the backdrops, the mats. They're mats.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're gorgeous anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like this lost art of making wallpaper of an entire horizon. It's just I feel sorry that those guys aren't getting enough attention.
Well, I think that you're right, they're not. And I was worried that I wouldn't have a lot to say about this, but there are let me ask you then. Where do you feel it is the most sluggish?
Um One of the things I was shocked at is this movie is mostly in 3 acts, and I made this joke when it nearly ended. This movie is 50% humiliation, 50% marching.
Yeah.
No, okay, it's like the first act is the gladiator stuff.
Is them as slaves.
Yeah, and where you see this build up before the revolution. The second act is as the army starts growing. And the third act is a quick defeat, and then the stuff with Crassus and his wife, Spartacus's wife, and all the crucifying part.
Yes.
I was shocked at actually how much, how the build up with like the building of the army and stuff.
Yeah.
There's not like any battles. There's not much. It's just a lot of marching and a lot of gathering, and then when they have their first battle, you don't see it. They just snuck up on a tent.
Well,
there's this huge sense of momentum that I don't think goes anywhere.
Well, that would I don't mean to be a presentist where old stuff is inherently worse, but if this were a new movie, we would have a fight scene, a self-contained army scene where they come across that thing, and then it ends with it being burned.
It feels like this is a movie where later historical epics are extremely influenced by and have learned from, and so now we're basing it on the standards of later movies.
Okay.
Because I found that the parts that I was the most interested in actually were the back and forth comparisons between the slaves on the one hand trying to appreciate and understand what does freedom mean and what are they doing with themselves and where are they going next.
Okay.
And on the other hand, the Roman senators squabbling and because there's this irony about this film that I find interesting, that a slave rebellion, these guys that are trying to find freedom, they're trying to fight for their freedom, indirectly create a dictator. Crassus can only become a dictator because of a slave rebellion, and he uses it.
Yeah, you were a very kind spark notes to me during it, where you kept reminding me that part of in an attempt to stop a rebellion, it indirectly after the events of this movie would lead to Julius Caesar's rise to power.
Yeah, and one of the young apprentices watching these politicians fighting for power is Julius Caesar.
Okay.
And he's learning. And you get this. I keep calling him. So the two Roman senators that are squabbling are Crassus, this infamously wealthy senator, and this guy who I can't remember his name. I just keep calling him Fatty.
He's got a name. Yeah.
And he represents, for better or worse, the Roman Republic and the Roman Senate in all of its corruption, its pragmatism, its willingness to cut corners.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it is still a republic.
Yeah.
And it still has stuff, it still has saving graces to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie references that because at the end, Fatty is been disgraced and exiled, and he's going to commit suicide. But before he does that, he makes sure that he pays for the freedom of Spartacus's wife and his child. So that this it's like I like this embodiment of the Roman Republic going. This republic is poisoned at the root. We run on slaves,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still something worthwhile.
Attempting to be worthwhile.
And don't let that die.
TV Tropes points out that this is an interesting movie and that it is among the fairly few to portray the Roman Republic society as a crapsack world.
What's a crapsack world?
You know, a general, not quite a dystopia, but stuff isn't quite as pleasing. Think half the energy of Biff Tannen's universe in Back to the Future 2. But shit's still functioning. So they find that interesting. Usually
it does emphasize it that this place fucking runs on slaves.
Yeah. So it's unusual. Most films they found tend to
accentuate like the exoticness of, oh, look at everyone in togas leaning around and eating grapes.
Yes, I did make a joke about that, but no, they never eat grapes. They're sometimes eating a nice looking chicken, but
or a melon or something.
This really helps Stanley's his first talent that shows up is painting the walls with irony. Yeah, that yes, this entire thing is set up to be like, oh, it runs on slaves, but you're trying to stop a revolt.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
One of the themes that I'm curious how the theme is going to evolve for the future films is that and from my memory of seeing the other films, I think that this is a running pattern with him. That's Kubrick is he likes portraying this theme of institutions dehumanizing individuals. So you get, and it really does show in Paths of Glory, where you have this institutional bureaucracy of World War I generals who are just using this for advancement, and in the process getting millions of people killed for no fucking reason, and just bastardizing the very sense of human life and justice.
Yeah.
And this one, again, the first, the first 50% is just such genius ways of humiliating people. Like that moment, for example, when Spartacus is directed to the jail cell, and this is a beautiful woman, and he says, "I've never had a woman," and he's just going, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful." And then the
extras are watching from above.
Yeah, the his owners look from above and down the cage and go, "Oh, come on, boy, get on her."
God damn it.
And they treat him like an animal, and just like, oh, he's so demoralized. He's like, his balls have been chopped off. And then at the end, where they're saying to Spartacus and Antonius that we're going to crucify one of your men for every 20 feet. You're going to be the last ones. So you have to watch every single time we stop. And then at the end, of this long train wreck, there's only two left, and that Crassus says, both of you fight to the death. The one who wins is going to be the crucified one. And Spartacus says to Antonius, I order you to let me kill you quick. And I love this in righteous defiance. He goes, no, I'm not paying attention to your orders. I'm free. You're going to be the one to have the quick, easy death.
That's nice.
It's so fucked up.
That is a fairly accurate summary of the results.
So I know that this theme is going to continue. You're going to get it happens in this theme of institutions dehumanizing people.
The ones that came to me are Jacket and Clockwork Orange.
Yes, and it's also going to happen in 2001.
Doctor Strangelove.
And it's going to happen in Doctor Strangelove. And I'm curious at how it's going to pop up in ones that I don't expect, like how it's going to pop up in Eyes Wide Shut, or if it does, or
that's more of an emotional moment, I guess.
Or if it happens in Lolita, or Barry Lyndon.
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to, I'm gonna bring it up. You know what? Yes, this shares a lot on that heat map I talked about earlier, where this is neighbors with Full Metal Jacket for that reason, this dehumanizing reason. I find that Full Metal Jacket's a very in-your-face dualism, so when he paints the wall with irony, it's a very bright neon green that all of your guests called gaudy. This is more of like an oppressive maroon, where they're like, wow, you kind of went with a bold color here, but at least like I can buy that I'm in this room.
Yeah.
So it's a little less propagandizing here, because it's hard to propagandize something 500 years in the future, or 2,000 years, or in the past, that far in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're removed from the subject matter, Stanley doesn't have to get up in this.
And I think also like the formalism of the historical epic restrained it. He managed to get it through with his irony through with Paths of Glory by setting the trial in this gaudy Rococo architecture. I'm not saying this is a bad movie, but it seems like Kubrick is real, like he's fighting the restrictions of the formula and the financing with this one, because there's so many. This is a genre that you have to mark the check boxes with, and he does mark the check boxes. Then he also tries to fit in his own little things, and that pushes up the runtime to like 3 hours. Like there's a lot of stuff where he pauses on so many things.
He's beginning to show you his love of portraiture and setting and set design. This movie, the total ending budget was $12 million. Thank God it made $60 million, and it's well known than things like Cleopatra. When you pause this on YouTube Movies, it says you might like these things other, and none of them are nearly as well known as this. Like Cleopatra wasn't repurposed into a Super Bowl ad. Where they all get up and ask for a Pepsi. Stanley Kubrick also disowned is the word Wikipedia used, but he no longer wishes it didn't exist. He says this is a very powerful teaching tool for me and others about what the studio will do when they say they give you creative freedom, but really don't do this and don't do that and don't do this, because if you let give them an inch, they will put their entire fist in the doorway.
So with that said, though, I'm curious, because I know that like a decade or two after this, Kubrick is revving to make a Napoleon epic. Why? When he knows that, like, because he knows the hurdles.
Well,
through this,
I don't mean that he's.
I would want to watch it, but I'm curious.
I don't mean that he's tooting his own horn, but I would love to think that he knows he'll be so much better. I think he knows more than most people that the more you photograph something, the better you get at it. And he's practicing when he's cutting his teeth on things this enormous. He knows he's going to be a master in, and that even sounds really douchey. Thinking like he knows he's going to be very, very good. I think I'm ready to wrap up. If you'd like to toss in your feelings.
Final thoughts. Let's see. it's saying something that this is second tier Kubrick, because that because there's you almost lose perspective, because that means that there are Kubrick movies that are better than it, but they're so good. Um, so it kind of, I lose my sense of proportion when I say this is second tier Kubrick. You know?
Yeah, so this happens it happens a lot with Pixar lists, which we're running right now. It also happens a lot with Stanley Kubrick's list, which means that about a quarter of the way up the list, most reviewers have to say, dude, everything up here and beyond is really good. Like, don't just because we put you ninth Spartacus doesn't mean we hate you. Like,
Yeah.
it's really hard to rank people that do this for a fucking living and are goddamn graved geniuses. I'm very excited for this man because when I look at his list of what's coming, we've done the obscure things. Right now, this is step number 2, and now we're going hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. And what is worse, he's expanding. And he's about to jump into one of his other big calling cards, which is I won't do a genre more than once. I want to do every genre, but not in all one movie. No, that's too messy. Cost $12 million. I want to do this. I want to do a Western and a horror and a romance and Napoleon. We'll wait for Napoleon. But guys, that's been episode 5 where we discussed 1960s enormous epic Spartacus. Please, won't you join us in 1 week where we discuss 1962's Lolita?
That's a 180. Holy shit. Go to historical epic to Lolita.
Stanley was like, I don't like it when they tell me what to do. I'll make a fucking pedo movie. Join us in 1 week, everybody.